Right, everybody, we shall make a start, if you can, please. The Finance and Strategy Management Committee meeting, Tuesday, the 23rd of April. Council Chambers. This meeting will be recorded and we uploaded to the Town Council's YouTube page. The aim of the decisions making should be transparent and in the public domain, which will involve more of the community and local democracy. By being in this council chamber, you are consenting to being recorded and your images will be added to the YouTube. The images and sounds will be used for training purposes. Any views expressed are the speaker's own and not necessarily reflective view of town councils. Please view the guidance on recordings in public meetings policy if you need more information. Thank you. First one on the agenda, apologies. We've got councillors Eardley, Salt, Jones and Hawley at the moment. Any others? Okay, thank you. Councillor Hawley's got COVID, that's why he's not here at the moment.
Got COVID, very nice.
Right. Declarations of interest, disclosable pecuniary interest, and any other interest. Nothing to declare, but please shout up if you think there's something that crops up. 105. Confirm the minutes of the Finance Strategy Committee meeting held on the 26th of March, approved in Town Council on the 9th of April.
Move it, Chair.
I move those as a true copy.
Seconded.
Yep.
Yeah, this to get signed in Town Council.
106. Accounts matters. Through the bank reconciliations for February 24, all accounts attached. Want to have a little look through those? Any comments at all? If officers, anything you want to highlight?
No, we'll you'll get the final bank reconciliation of the year at the next finance committee. We're just kind of making sure everything's coming in out as it should be for the last month of the year. So as ever, we're looking for A equals B checks out, okay? So it does.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? All in favour? Show
Move
that.
it, Chair. Just make a comment. Is it possible cashing out at the end of the year, which come through next? Can we have a sort of what it's been over 5 years? See where we're actually sitting with the accounts. You know, see if we eroding reserves or building the reserves. What the picture is. This has been a difficult time since COVID, and obviously the cost of living crisis. So I would like a snapshot of where we are in the scheme of things.
Yes, absolutely. We can run that report. It's more complicated than its cost of living though, because we have spent a lot of money reserves on capital projects.
I totally accept that.
Out those.
It's just the bottom line of knowing where we are and how we're moving, because we've got a number of capital projects in the offing, so to speak.
Okay. Thank you. Here with that then, 207. 107A. Report following the April internal control visit by Councillor Hawley and Eardley attached. I was hoping you'd want to be here today, but we can't. So, is there any comments that we'd like to mention? You'll see with Councillor Perkins is now Eardley. Go through those page by page.
Page 12.
I'm not sorry.
Page 12, it just says no red flags.
Yeah.
So,
Nothing red, so nothing in red.
Move it, Chair.
Okay. All okay? Thank you. 107B. Confirm that the final internal control visit of the year will take place on the 15th of May. That's just information. And C, confirm the internal audit visit is planned for the 23rd of May. Instruction letter attached.
If I may, Chair,
Yeah.
you'll recall that our auditor has done it now for a couple of years. She said at the end of last year she'd be happy to work with us again this year, and she's confirmed via email she's absolutely happy to do that. That's quite a good result for us, because as I understand it, there's a shortage of internal auditors across the parish council sector. So the fact that she's happy to stay with us, and she does a really very thorough job, it's good news for us. So that's the kind of reasonably standard letter that we agree with her before she comes to kind of set the boundaries, the remits for her visit with us. But she's also she's got a login for Scribe, which you'll remember is our finance package. So she can do quite a lot of checking via the website and through logging onto Scribe before she even comes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, fine. Moving on then, 108, grants. Period of grant application forms for 24-25. You see there's front of you. Is everybody okay with the application forms? Any comments or queries?
Is this form materially different than last year's form?
Not really.
No.
Feedback from most people is it's quite a straightforward process. We haven't made it too onerous. It collects enough information, I think, for you to be able to make decisions. So now's the time to change it, because if you want to do that, we'll make those changes and it'll be on hopefully at the end of the week.
Absolutely. Final chance to change this season. Give you a minute.
A deadline day, like.
That's okay for everybody?
Accepted.
Accepted. Thank you. And 8B, to approve the grant evaluation forms for 24-25 attached. Similar thing again. It's not a lot of differences, I don't think, at all.
No, this is just the form that you use after you've gifted the grant to provide enough feedback for you to understand how it's been spent. So obviously this goes out a little later.
Yeah. Moving on to 108C. This is the one that's been tabled this evening.
Repeat both of those.
Yeah, please. All in favour, both of them? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to 108C. That's the one that's being tabled this evening. So, first page is the grants that were allocated earlier in the year and saying that they're being collected. All of them have gone out.
Yeah. So we've spent £69,000 of the 71 that was allocated grants. And we've chased all of those who owe an evaluation form for 23-24. So I know it's been a frustration in the past that we've had evaluation forms outstanding at the point of trying to allocate new grants. So we've already done an initial chase, and we'll chase again before you allocate the grants in June.
Okay, thank you. And then moving on to the town councillors' funds. That's who spent what and where. Oh, as you know, this is town councillors, not district councillors. That will open again on.
Not till the autumn now. So we get the main pot done and dusted, allocated at the end of June. And then the main pot opens.
Jackson?
Yeah, the three amounts that are not in yellow.
Yeah.
Is the reason why they're not in yellow? They're not going through. Well, it looks like they've
No, they
got
haven't.
through.
So the Biddulph Bloom, the councillors have spoken to Biddulph Bloom team. agreed to allocate the funds, but we haven't had the form from Biddulph. So the fund, as far as we were allocated, as far as we were concerned, the funds were allocated, but we haven't had the right paperwork, so we're coming from and the same with the harvest affairs.
And it's quite, quite a bit, and it's the same for Nipers Repair School, is that the same?
Yeah,
reason?
councillor agreed to give the funding for that, but they haven't paid them. So we've got an addition to that, we would allocate those funds, but if the right paperwork.
So those funds go back in the pot now, is that right?
Depends how long you want to keep it open for. We've done a lot of chase on the paperwork. They've had those conversations, but I'd say the time's pretty much done.
I'm assuming that the councillors have followed up with the organisations.
Yeah.
The organisations are still not, doing it because there is a sort of a deadline for us on this. So
I give it till the end of the week. And then close it. See that's done.
and I noticed one councillor's only allocated £50 to this.
Disappointing, isn't it?
I just find that I don't know the reasons why, whether something fell down or what, I don't know. But I do think, town council pushed the boat out on this to get this initiative going. And for councillors not to use that money is a bit, is disappointing.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that. I know what it was spent on, but I don't know why the other wasn't spent.
Yeah.
Well, £50.
50, I mean, the councillor concerned had gone to the trouble of getting one sorted out,
Point taken.
I just think that, it's really down to the town councillors to use this fund up, because there are, plenty of, if you go back to how, the town council grants being oversubscribed, you only need to look back at that to say who didn't get the full amount, for a council then to be proactive and say to one or two organisations, I've got a little bit in my fund that, you're more than welcome to if you want. It just seems as though it should have been done and hasn't.
Point taken. We won't name, but we will speak to. Okay.
I haven't named the council.
We will speak to. Yeah.
I just think it should be spent.
Point taken on that. Thank you. Moving on to 109. As requested by Councillor Hawley, who unfortunately can't be here this evening, so we suggesting that we defer it for the next meeting. Everybody in favour of that? Proposed by Councillor Hart. Have a second for that, so Councillor Lawton. Thank you. Moving on then to 110. This is down to a lot of work with Councillor Lawton and our chief officer as well on this one. As you can see on this table, there's now a Saturday service, and to approve, the town council will pay 50% of the cost of 10,000 leaflets to promote this service in the Biddulph area. Chief officer, please.
It's very new news, this actually. So obviously the county council has had additional funds allocated for transport. We've lobbied for some time that the service 93 is extended. At the same time, D&G have suggested that it'd be really beneficial for quite a lot of their new services and those of first, so all providers of service busting in the town, to promote the Biddulph services. So they're happy to get the printing sorted, and they've found a quote which is £1,336, and they've asked if we'll contribute half of that. So that would promote the extended 93 service, which the county council has supplemented. The county council supplemented the service that we previously provided by adding before and after and a weekend service. And then it would also promote the 94, 94A, the 95, 7A, how many others are there, Adrian? Number 9,
Number 9,
it would have all of the Biddle services.
my favourite service from the hospital.
Yeah, 10,000 of those, they could go to every home in the town. We very much have promoted this, use it or lose it as regards buses within the town. Obviously, for quite a number of the services, we are the last point on their journey. So if there were cost savings to be made, we've always been concerned that the potential could be that the Biddle leg of services get shaved off. So actually, you very much need people to use the bus services in Biddle, which are increasingly marvellous.
Thank you, Chief Officer. Councillor Hart.
I would accept that as being a good rational move on our part. It's no use us complaining about the bus services and then somebody does something about it and then we don't make a contribution in, which we always do. We always punch well above our weight in helping out with the bus services. I think use them or lose them is very important. And we don't want to lose them now we've got them back. So I would say yes, we go ahead.
Councillor Hart. Thank you, Councillor Yates.
Yes, I mean, one of the driving forces for the extension on the Monday to Friday service was to see if it could actually provide a school bus service, and I'm not really sure it does, to be perfectly honest. And one of the things which, you know, was lobbied for quite strongly was that does it necessarily, and I'm looking at Adrian on this, who was the timetable meister, does it necessarily have to run the same route if it's primarily a school service for, you know, the first and last times? You know, it's one thing to have a sort of deliver to the high street service to connect up, but it's another thing to have a schools. I mean, we're still lobbying and try and get an active response on the vacant seats of the allocated school bus service, the free school bus service, and we're not letting go of that. And hopefully in time for the next term, we might have some movement on that. But this was seen as an interim step to say, if we can't sort out the vacant seats, can we extend the 93 either side? So it actually services school children. And, you know, looking at Woodhouse School, you effectively arriving either at 8:15 or you arrive in school after assembly, aren't you? Which isn't ideal, and the same goes for the high school. So I'm wondering whether we have a sort of tweaked, you know, as it runs. It's a bit late for this year, but if we don't sort out the vacant seats, perhaps we can run this as sort of 93A service before 9:30 and a 93 service after 9:30, and have slightly different routes, primarily to make sure the times are right for school, if you know what I mean. Because that was the driver.
Okay, thank you. So it's quite exciting news. There's a lot of
Very good.
talking and just meetings with Councillor Lawton and the Chief Officer. We've got the Saturday service, but we need to get it promoted. So we're all in favour that we pay this. Where's about Councillor?
Make one quick comment.
Yeah.
We're going to be promoting all of these services, but we've got absolutely no control when whoever it wants to be wants to change the service, which they do from time to time, don't they? Which then makes sections of this redundant. We've got no control of it. So I think perhaps, I mean, I know we do get, as councillors, we get a notification about a change or a change of service or a reduction in service or whatever. It's just, I think I'm trying to future-proof the leaflet, but we've got no control of the outside bodies who are going to alter their times if they want to or need to.
Yeah, Chief Officer.
I think the biggest risk there is first, because it would be D&G that would be producing the leaflet. So one would hope.
I was thinking more than first.
Yeah. But we've got good relationships with them anyway. So I think that they'll be pleased that we're promoting the 7A. And while they have made tweaks recently, they haven't been significant tweaks. We haven't heard on the grapevine that there are more tweaks planned. But I think that's the risk.
All I'm thinking about, potentially our name is going to be on this piece of paper.
That's true.
They change, somebody's waiting at a bus stop and the service doesn't turn up. Your leaflet says it's, so it comes back on us, or it possibly come back on the town council a little bit. I'm just saying, you know, that's a potential risk.
I think there needs to be a disclaimer on there to say, make sure you check that the times are up to date. but also I think initially you'd hope that more people get the leaflet through the door, because we could put it out with the Biddulph Times, for example, so people would get a leaflet through the door and then they'd start to have a relationship with that bus service such that they would know when the changes were coming anyway. That would be the hope, but I do absolutely take your point. We could get one printed and a change come the following week.
Right.
That's not the case.
Point taken. Thank you very much, councillor Yates.
Yeah, a way of sort of helping to mitigate that, is we put 3D barcodes against each bus number within the leaflet. So with a disclaimer saying that, you know, for up-to-date information, scan the 3D barcode, because most, certainly the, you know, critical users at either end would be smartphone operators. I should think, you know, all the school children and youngsters and the more seniors are just happy to have the bus when it turns up in some respects.
We're using an abacus, then.
Well, I believe you haven't read the manual.
What's the
Well,
bottom?
thanks, we got proposed by councillor Hawes, seconded by
QR code.
It's the only barcode.
Maybe
councillor Brady. All in favour? Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, moving on to 111. Policies, reviewed tree strategy, which is a big document.
Many red things on it, that isn't.
Perhaps, please, I can bring you in on this one,
there's much to say, actually, Sean.
as long as it's all been read.
Yeah.
We
It's
set
highlight
out,
anything
set
you
out
want to
fall out fairly early doors as regards what we were hoping for in regards to trees.
have.
Yep.
You're happy enough with that policy?
Move it.
Very good, thank you very much for that. Moved and seconded, councillor Parton Yates. Councillor Yates, you want to speak?
Only vote, I'm voting it.
Okay,
I would approve.
okay.
Yeah.
All in favour? Thank you. Right, moving on to 11B. To approve the reviewed reserves policy. Again, any thoughts or comments, anybody, or all in favour? That's a
Question. Is the reserve policy very much in line with the sort of national guidelines for this sort of council?
The wording is such, you know, having general reserves and earmarked reserves and that kind of thing.
I mean, it's saying the proportion of money that you keep as opposed to turnover and that sort of thing.
With the internal control process, the recommendation has been that we keep 50% of the annual expenditure as a general reserve. Now, that I don't know where that's come from in terms of legislation or guidance, because I've made that change in here. So that's taken us. So previously we had 50% of the precept amount, which was about £200,000 we put in general reserves. So bear in mind, your general reserves is what you would use to tie up your business if something went wrong. Recommendation through the internal control, so that's currently councillors Hawley and Thirdly, is that we put 50% of the annual expenditure, which is about 800,000, so equaling £400,000 of reserves being set aside as general reserves should we need to tie up the business of the town council, which is absolutely fine. But in terms of what that leaves you left as an earmarked reserve, that then significantly reduces the amount that you can put forward as an earmarked reserve for your capital projects and your one-off bits of projects, your smaller things. So I've amended it this time based on that recommendation. But it really significantly reduces the amount that you allocate against some of those projects, which are on in the Appendix A of the policy. And so you've got £300,000 for earmarked reserves. And I've put there, I mean, you previously wanted to use reserves to, as you know, for the grant scheme, for the projects that you'd got coming out of the grant scheme and for civic regalia. There's also a recommendation that 10% of your rental income should be held in reserve for periods where there are no tenants in. I mean, it's entirely up to you how you want to make that work. I can't see a period of time when we'd need £400,000 to wind up the business and the workings of the town council. But I do think, and I also think you need more than £300,000 for the capital and projects that you've got in mind. So based on previous recommendations, I've gone with it £400,000 as a general reserve. But that feels excessive to me. But, you know, take your view on.
Thank you, councillor Jackson.
I just think like, you know, if the whole thing collapsed, 6 staff's redundancies for the year's service our staff have got would come to less than £200,000 anyway, I think, which would be the big chunk of it, wouldn't it? That'd be the big chunk of it. So why carry 400,000 that ties up basically 200,000 that we then cannot use or we shouldn't be using for the, you know, the project? It just seems to me that we're taking quite a lot of money off the citizens of Biddulph to sit, the money to sit in a pot. I understand we've got to have, you know,
Yeah.
at least a minimum to sit down. But I do think 200,000 was probably sufficient in that, and
I don't think it's a lot for the size of council that we are, but there you go, councillor Yates, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's two things. One is, you know, look at what local government guidance is, because I know that they have to have a reserves policy at Staffordshire Moors, which equates to so many months. The other thing is that there's a real, there's an actuality that within the financial year, we are still getting precepts. So even if it was closed in, there is money still being raised and actually distributed in, which, you know, if the average of a year is 6 months, 6 months worth of precept is £165,000. So there is monies continually coming in if the worst was to happen. And the other point comes is that if you have a general reserve, and we aren't looking at investment strategy here, but if we have a reserves allocation which fixes in stone a set amount that thou now must never touch, we may as well put that into a long-term fixed interest thing, which gets the absolute maximum interest. You know, the lowest risk long-term, like national, you know, like the new national savings bonds, which whether we can or can't, which give a heck of a percentage, and at least we've got some money to play with. But I think we've got to fit in with local government guidance, to be perfectly honest. Otherwise, we're just hoarding money for the sake of it and not doing anything with it.
Point taken, so quite so easy to put money, business money into high interest account, as it nowadays, unfortunately. Not
Well,
impossible.
Absolutely, you can do, but you've got to, you know, when you review your investment strategy, you have to decide whether it meets the criteria set out in that. You know, bear in mind it's public money. You can't put it in something that's potentially risky. You've got to guarantee at least what you put in out again, which doesn't get you high yield investments.
Thank you, councillor Hart.
Yeah, I remember a lot of councils putting into high interest accounts that were situated somewhere in mid-Atlantic.
Point of clarification, I'm not talking about risk, I'm talking about principle. And I did actually mention the National Savings Bank as an example, which is...
Yes, I appreciate that through the chair. But I certainly wouldn't advocate investing in Icelandic banks.
We wouldn't consider that anyway.
and to information, everybody that invested in Icelandic banks got their money back with interest, so. I was nervous for a while, I agree.
Was very nervous for a while.
Everybody got the money back.
Points are taken on that, though. It's not anything we can make a decision on at this moment in time. The points have been taken and for consideration in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on then.
Well, hang on, what do you want to do?
You want to do, yes. Sorry, I was just getting the agenda, sorry, yeah. Yeah,
Do you want to keep it at £400,000 in general reserves?
what do you think, it's a bit high or 400, I'd say.
I propose an interim thing. Why don't we split the difference and call it 300,000 instead of 2? That'll give the chief officer some wriggle room in the eventuality of disaster occurring.
That's it.
I just clarify, my question was purely, is it in line with where we should be. Not, I wasn't really questioning whether we got too much or too little. I know what it should be. I don't know what percentage it should be, that's. So I was just asking if it's in line with where we are in the world of policy.
It's a very long-winded answer of saying yes.
We're not-
We've easily got 50% of the pre-sale value in
Right.
reserves, but it's whether or not you want to take the view that councillors Hawley and Eardley have taken before, and councillor Perkin before that actually we should hold a higher amount in general reserves. We have that money there. We've got something like £700,000 sitting in reserve. It's how much you allocate for projects and tasks that we might complete outside of the precept, precept world, the general budget, and how much you would have sitting there in the eventuality, the risk of anything happening to us.
Yeah. Councillor James and then what?
Yes, I think, there obviously is a prudency and a recommendation of keeping a contingency reserve, which could be equivalent to the, closing down costs associated, which could be calculated, which would be, I was expecting in line with 6 months of precept, because that fits in around about right. What I've sort of, and we had this similar conversation last time when we were looking at what to use reserves on, is that previous councillors who've sat around this chamber who have accrued those reserves to actually do progressive capital projects for the benefit of Biddulph wouldn't want, sitting here in their shoes, would they sort of think, well, we didn't raise the precept and squirrel away this amount of money so that we can just sit on it for the sake of sitting on it if it's over and above what the expectation is. So I personally think on that basis, that wasn't the reason that was put in there. And if it's higher than what it prudently needs to be, as opposed to absolutely minimum needs to be, which it obviously is, then I wouldn't support that. As I wouldn't without my own personal savings at home.
Thank you. Councillor Wood?
Well, I assume we don't invest any money overnight like other local district councils and metropolitan councils. I assume we don't, it's in a single bank account.
It's in the, well, it is, if I may, it is invested, but it's with CCLA, so that's the churches, charities, local authorities organisation. So it's invested across a range of banks and financial institutions.
And what's the period of that?
It's almost instant access if we want to, but it's kind of,
So in terms of, if there was heaven forbid, a financial crash, and our money is invested with them, would that put us at some higher risk, would you say, if there was a financial crash?
believe not, because of the way
There's
that,
the guarantees from the banks.
yeah, they're spread over so many, and our £500,000 is spread over so many institutions. It should, it never reaches the threshold where we put it.
50,000, that threshold.
Yeah, it's never above that in any
So
institution.
therefore, the money, unless there's a catastrophic crash, the money is pretty much secure.
It should be.
Yeah,
It should be.
should lay back. So therefore, as long as we can get access to the finance, does it really matter what's in what account? No, I don't think so myself.
I think it's just for the purpose of this policy,
Yeah.
it's just being able to allocate. We're an audit, really.
Sake, aren't we?
Yeah. But we have to be able to demonstrate to our auditors that we're holding those purposes. So we have to be able to say we haven't got £700,000 in the bank. It's just sat there for a rainy day. We have to allocate almost to the penny where that's going.
So, for example, we've allocated 100,000 for the town hall frontage. We can call on that immediately and there's no issue.
Well, we've got proposed 400, Councillor Hawley, and then Councillor Jackson had 200, Councillor Hart said 300.
I'm happy either way, really. It's just that it just seems a fair old chunk at 400,000 that's sort of, and I know it's not, you know, it's earmarked for nothing really, and
Yeah.
money that we possibly could use. Because we have been criticised in the past for having unallocated amounts of money, or we said, well, it's for this, but yeah, it's been in there for 5 years and nothing's happened with it and stuff. You know, we have been criticised in the past for that kind of thing. I'm happy to leave it as it is, go to 2 or go to 3. I'm not passionate about it either, because we can, if something arose that we wanted £100 out of that 400, we could move it over. So, yeah.
So are we happy with 3? Split the difference between the 2 and the 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Proposal and a seconder for 3 then. First, councillor Hart, seconded councillor Ward, all in favour? Thank you. Okay.
Do you, sorry, I'm probably need to bring you that back then.
Well, obviously, you've got to
The
touch base with,
say revised totals, if that's.
yeah.
That's okay.
The chair, in the meantime, could we find out what the level of prudency is from national guidance? If there is such a thing?
Yeah, councils should typically hold between 3 and 12 months.
Well, there used to be 5% of your budget, and it changes all the time.
I don't think that Cheadle and Leek Town councils could go anywhere near what we've got.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll move on anyway. And agenda items, 112A, consider proposed disposal of any assets in line with asset management policy and financial regulations. I don't think there's any this time, is
Rid of a
it?
load last time, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Moving on to B then, to confirm approved suppliers as part of the procurement policy, that's in your pack this evening.
Yeah,
Table.
just one this time, that's because they are the organisation who will do the memorial testing at the burial ground, so we've had all of their insurances, risk assessments, method statements.
Good.
Make a general point from that.
Yeah,
We haven't gone into confidential yet, did we?
not yet,
I'm sorry, when we get to confidential.
not far off it, yeah, okay.
Sorry.
So is everybody okay with that one? All in
Yeah,
favour?
Yeah, do you want to propose and stuff?
Yeah, we'll just
Close.
Lewis, Hart and Yates, yeah. All in favour? Thank you. Right,
No.
now we're going to confidential, so. Thank you, YouTubers, for watching us, but I'm afraid we're going to confidential items now, so we will lose you at this point in time. Do again, thank you.